Today I am taking the FSD 14.2.1 out on my usual city route to see how it behaves in real traffic. I'll walk you through what's gotten better, what still needs work, and I'll point out the major changes as we drive. This is just a quick real world check to see how the update feels day to day. And let's see how it handles the route and what shortfalls show up. So let's get into it. Most of you are familiar with this set city route where I run every major FSD update. We'll navigate several traffic features on this route like different intersections, unprotected left turns, main streets and neighborhoods etc. I'll also take this opportunity to speak about this update. To start, FSD now offers some useful speed profiles to choose from. From sloth, which is slow and cautious, to chill, your easy everyday mode, to standard, which is the default, to hurry, which is confident but smooth, and Mad Max, which keeps up with the fast lanes when it's safe. These profiles actually matter as the car reads the speed limit, watches traffic, and blends that with your style to pick a speed that fits. This looks very useful, but honestly speaking, it will need to be tried by different users before we truly ascertain its usefulness. Until then, it's just yet another customization. The feel I get is of a very steady steering and lane entering. It also seems to occasionally left align the car somewhat in the lane, and that's how it should be. But I don't see that consistently enough. I saw almost no corrections or sudden sharp turns in the days I have been trying this update. The acceleration looks nice and gradual, and the braking appears smooth and predictable. That's of course all in comparison to before. There is that much more of a driver in it and that much less software. At turns, I see it putting a good amount of work, that is signaling in time and gradually rolling in the desired direction. It's so human-like that it seems to actually outperform an average human driver, like a human with good technology. That's also true with its choices of lanes to take, an area where it would often get it wrong before. I will leave out talking about the navigation as that's a separate part of the software and has improved as well. The system now seems more in sync with the conditions, and that's most prominently seen when it reacts to the shifts in traffic. The FSD software brings some interesting pre-drive customizations. That includes setting lane changes to be automatic or manual. It allows better route preferences, and the blue button to start the drive with FSD is now always on the screen in a lighter color to start FSD at any point of the drive. That's very useful. All that goes with your standard preferences like routes to pick, driving character, avoiding tolls, etc. It's a good way for drivers to convey their priorities ahead. Another useful feature is the self-driving stats. What percent of your driving is manual and what percent is handled by FSD? Besides being useful for Tesla, it's good for drivers to see the utility of the system themselves. Out go the wake summaries and in comes a clearer idea of what the car is avoiding, how it behaves in different situations, and how the system is learning the conditions as you keep using FSD. And another parameter I emphasize in my reviews is how smoothly it hands back control to the driver. And that's been excellent, either by a simple press of the right scroll on the steering or a gentle handling of the steering itself. We are now approaching an unprotected left turn, an important maneuver. Traffic is light today, but this is still a tricky situation. The car has to yield to oncoming vehicles from the front and for pedestrians crossing on the left before it can make the turn. No challenge today, the coast is clear. You can also feel that the neural network underneath all of this has clearly been upgraded. There's a noticeable increase in confidence in the way the system moves, plans, and commits itself. Tesla also mentions that this version now has dedicated handling for emergency vehicles, the ability to pull over or yield when needed, which, if consistently reliable, is a huge step towards real world readiness. On top of that, the neural network has more navigation capability baked directly into it. This isn't just map following, it's deeper situational understanding, which Tesla says will keep improving with future updates. And this release also brings expanded handling for both dynamic and static gates, along with smarter offsets for road debris like fallen tree branches. These are the kinds of details that matter when you want a car to operate safely in the imperfect, unpredictable conditions we actually drive in every day. Of course, building a vision only autonomous system is an incredible challenge. Definitely not impossible, but far harder than systems that rely on additional sensors. In this version, Tesla claims improvements in fault management and recovery, as well as better cleaning and handling of the crucial front camera even at higher speeds. It should also now alert you about residue buildup and offer tighter monitoring of driver attention. All of this together shows that the company is not just training the network to see better, but is working on making the entire vision pipeline more robust and reliable. This is the spot where the system struggled in the previous version. You can check my earlier test in the link here or in the description. Back then, it made an unnecessary lane change before coming back, and it only stayed safe because there were no cars nearby. One notable addition in FSD 14 is the new arrival options feature, which lets you select where FSD should park at your destination with choices such as parking lot, street, driveway, parking garage, or curbside, and the system can remember your preferences for each destination, adding a bit more flexibility and control over how it handles parking. Autopark in FSD 14 feels very similar to earlier versions, continuing to identify parking spots reliably, although its speed can vary depending on the surroundings. Sometimes it moves confidently and finishes quickly, while other times it takes a bit longer to settle into the spot. So overall it feels consistent, but not noticeably faster or smarter than before. I tested Autopark in FSD version 13 as well, and when I checked it again in the same parking spot with version 14, it took a little extra time, though I would not read too much into that. We are now in a school zone, even though it's a holiday. There are some new barriers here that weren't present before and seem to be a recent addition, though they shouldn't really make a difference. Here are a few things I have noticed on the downside while using it. On at least one occasion, on a perfectly normal day, the car encountered an aggressive driver who was rapidly weaving through lanes. No indicators, just pure reckless driving. I could see FSD getting a bit jittery, trying to make small evasive lane adjustments, and in the process, it ended up alarming the car in the next lane. I immediately took over at that point, and in a couple of parking garages, it just gave up trying to find its way out. That part still feels very much like work in progress. Ignorance of road conditions like potholes or rough patches continues to be an issue, so I can't say FSD takes good care of the tires and suspension. This is a very significant factor that does not seem to feature in the thinking. I'll be happy to be wrong. If you have been watching these tests on the same control route, you may have noticed how much more confident the system appears. It simply seems more sure of itself overall, particularly in how it handles turns and comes to a stop. We are now out of the neighborhood and the school zone and merging onto the main street. The system has clearly improved, there's no doubt about that. That said, technologies like these have virtually no margin for error. They could be 99.9% effective, yet that remaining fraction of a percent can still be unacceptable. It's an interesting moment, especially as Rivian just had their autonomy day. From what I'm hearing so far, their approach sounds quite promising, and I'm looking forward to trying it myself, so stay tuned for that. Tesla prices this system at $8,000 upfront or $99 per month. Valuing autonomy is difficult, and it's likely to differ from person to person. I do imagine a future where this becomes the standard and the human driver is no longer required. The journey to that point is what makes this so compelling, as we watch the system evolve step by step. That phase may well create a substantial and possibly unassailable gap between the software defined brands like Tesla and Rivian and the rest of the automotive industry as we know it. This is now the last signalized intersection on our standard route. As you have seen, this is a simple city drive that covers most of the everyday urban driving. I run this same route with every major update, which helps me assess what's changed from one version to the next. It's not meant to be a comprehensive test of every capability, but it serves as a consistent control, and that makes it easier to understand how the system is evolving. The real challenges, of course, tend to appear in unforeseen situations. At this point, it's good interpreting road markings, even when they are not especially clear. One concern I still have is how it adapts to actual road conditions, things like bad roads or stray objects that could pose a hazard. These are the FSD options. You can see the stats for your FSD drive, the speed profiles, the options for smart summon, and more. So that's my take on the new FSD update. Some parts feel genuinely solid now, some parts still need patience, and some parts, well, they are still FSD being FSD. I'll keep running the same route with every major update so we can track the progress together. Let me know what quirks or wins you have seen on your drives. If you'd like to see my previous FSD review or my take on the latest Nissan Leaf and its history, check the links here or in the description. See you in the next one.